Good afternoon. It's 8th of November 2016. About 2:15 in the afternoon. Hope everybody's fine. Cup of tea. Right, what's the subject of today? Subject today is Turing's Law. And I hope I pronounced that correctly. Turing, named after Alan Turing. Who was Alan Turing? He was a mathematician, a bit of a physicist, scientist. He's been named as the father of modern computing, but he's mostly remembered as one of the scientists that worked at Bletchley site on code breaking of the Enigma machine. He actually was the one that came up with a machine that was able to break the code. The Enigma machine. The Enigma machine was a code machine that the Nazis used to give instructions. And because you had to set dials, it was impossible to break, but Alan Turing found a way of breaking it. So, through this work, it reduced the war by at least 2 years, they reckon. Very important work he did. Very demanding work, because also, even though they managed to break the code, there were sometimes they had to make the moral decision of, should we let the Germans attack this convoy? Should we let the Germans do this? Should we allow the Germans to do that? Because obviously if they intercepted every action, the Germans would realise there was something up, change the code or the coding machines, and they'd be back at square one. So Turing's Law. Why Turing's Law? Anybody that's watched the film The Imitation Game will know that Alan Turing was gay. And he was convicted of a homosexual act. Because at that time, it was illegal. He went for what they call chemical castration. And there's two thoughts. Either he got depressed through it and committed suicide, or because one of the projects he had on dealt with chemicals, especially arsenic and stuff like that, he died through accidental poisoning. But the one people most quote is he committed suicide. Excuse me, I got... Mouth feels a bit dry. So he was convicted. I think it was... There's been a campaign because he was a war hero. I says, without his work, the war would have lasted much longer and could have been a different outcome to it. To have him pardoned for the crimes he committed by being gay and acted upon them. I think he got a royal pardon in 2012. So therefore it was decided that it should be looked at. Anybody with historical, what would be classed as sex crimes, in other words acting on gay impulses, should also be pardoned. Anybody convicted before it was made legal in 1967, and also the reductions of ages since then. I mean, the age now of consent is 16. When it was originally made legal, it was 21, then it was reduced down to 18. I did a video on this, gay history. Go and check that out. So, it's being pushed through Parliament. It is going through Parliament at the moment, as I understand. And it's by everybody report that people should be pardoned for these crimes. There's also a couple of things that they need to be looking at, as I understand. It isn't just pardoning everybody, because also there's other things come into it, like people, it's what in England we used to call cottaging. Again, I talked about this in the gay history, the old toilets that look like a little cottage. People used to meet up there and have sex. So therefore, should they be pardoned because it's public sexual activity, will be classed as gross indecency, etc. So it's going through. Hopefully it'll be done. Anybody that's passed away will be posthumous pardoned. Anybody still living will automatically receive a pardon. So what does a pardon mean? I've looked up the legal definition, and the simplest way to put it is restores personal individual rights. It also restores persons' innocence, like they have never committed a crime. In other words, they're saying, whoops, we made a mistake, you're innocent of this crime, so therefore we're wiping it off the books. Brilliant. Fantastic. Except some people are saying we also want an apology for being arrested, being tried, being convicted. You must also remember that also some people hid their homosexuality by getting married, having kids. So it didn't just destroy their life, it destroyed other people's lives as well. Because it'd be blasted over the local newspapers, oh, Fred Bloggs has been convicted of a homosexual act and stuff like that. You know, the wives didn't know, the kids didn't, you know. So they want an apology. This is where we get into the more difficult part. I can see what people are saying about that. Don't get me wrong. The problem is, at that time, it was illegal. And if you were arrested, and it was a criminal offence. Yes, we can say that the police tactics were a bit underhanded. It's what you would class as entrapment and that type of thing. But it was a crime. If you were caught committing a crime, you were arrested and you were charged. It's the same today. If I went out and robbed a bank, I'd be arrested and I would be tried. If I went out and smacked somebody in the nose, I would be arrested and tried. At that time, that act of homosexuality was illegal. They were caught, they were tried. Like I says, some of the underhanded ways that the police went round it to catch people, sending nice young police officers into these toilets to be picked up, we would class as entrapment. Also, you must remember, being gay was not a crime. Acting on it was the crime. So up here, oh, I am gay, it's not a criminal offence. Going out and picking somebody up and having sex with them was the criminal offence. I can't see the police or anybody ever apologising for arresting somebody. Because like I says, it was a criminal offence. And I'm sorry, but yeah, you can turn around and say, well, you grew up in the age where it wasn't a criminal offence. Except when I started, the age of consent was still 21. Yes, I did under the age of 21. Then when it went to 18, luckily when it went to 18 I was over the age of 18. And then when it went down to 16, obviously I was over the age of 16. But when I first started sexual activity, I was under the age of legal consent. So in some respects, anybody I went with was committing a crime. There are some people campaigning who were arrested in the 70s because they were having sex with people under the age of 21. That's where we get onto the difficult bits. Because obviously it was legal, you knew the age of consent. But then again, they're still talking about giving these people pardons. But they're still crying, oh, we want an apology as well. It gets a bit difficult in these sort of situations. The subject is very emotive. Some people will say, no, it shouldn't be. These people shouldn't be receive pardons because they committed a criminal offence. Logically, it should never have been illegal. Logically, the age of consent should never have been 21. It should have been 16, like a heterosexual couple. So, it's a bit of a short one today. It's I hope it does go through quicker, because there are still people alive that have been convicted of criminal offences that were, you know, from the 60s, and it'd be nice if they get a pardon. Like I says, I can neither see people receiving an apology for being arrested for something that was basically a criminal offence. So what's everybody else's thoughts? I know at one time they were talking about they should look at each of the areas. You know, anybody pre-1967 should only be pardoned if they had sex with somebody over 21. Then between 67 and I think it was 80, 85, you know, over 80. That would get too difficult. That would get too difficult. So that's why they set the age of 16. As is the legal age of consent now. But yeah, just wanted to do a quick talk on that. Me and Joe talked about it quite a few times, age of consent and stuff like that. And I just thought it was important because it had hit the headlines a couple of weeks ago. Also, it's always on in Facebook and stuff like that about this Turing Law. Well, that says it's called Turing's Law after Alan Turing. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, a short and sweet one today, and speak to you again soon.